everyone. Good evening. It's great to be on here this afternoon, and it's good to see all of you on with us today. And we're just excited about our topic today. We kind of continue that same vein we're in last week. We were talking about legacies, and we want to just talk a little bit more concerning that. But before we get started, I want everyone to introduce themselves and just share some information about what's going on with all of us as we introduce ourselves. Ms. Dyer, how are you today?
Hello. Let me say welcome to our listening audience. I definitely want to say hello. Welcome to our listening audience. Welcome to each one of us. Our 904 rejoice904.com broadcast. So welcome. And then also Facebook, YouTube, to all of you all out there. Let me say welcome to Hidden in Plain Sight. This is our broadcast where we are definitely ensuring that you all are financially educated and impacted. And I'm just excited to be back here with you again for another week. But also let me say hello to my colleagues. So welcome. You're on back.
Ms. Dyer, we just want to remind everybody this is your birthday month, and we continue to celebrate. And we just want to continue to in the festive spirit. Uh, Mr. Rogers, how are you today?
Fantastic. Hey, excited to be here again. Definitely want to give a shout out to our 904rejoice.com listening audience, our Facebook family, YouTube followers, Instagram. Hey, just excited to be here. I want to give a shout out to you once again, Bishop, for being the general, helping sure this information to get disseminated into the hearts and the minds of the individuals. Definitely want to give a shout out to the Trade Whisperer. I guess I will join in with you, Bishop, and we continue this Facebook month of appreciation for the Trade Whisperer. And then Dr. Craig Bythewood, the finance doctor, the one and only, out of Tampa, Florida, via Tampa, Florida, New Jersey, that is. I'm just messing with him because he a Buccaneer fan now. He got a lot to boast and brag about now.
Wow. I'm just happy to be affiliated with him. Dr. Craig Bythewood, we're happy to have you today. How are you doing today?
I am doing.
It's over with, so I'm gonna just jump in and throw that in there. How you doing, Dr. B?
Haters gonna hate. I am so excited to be on this radio broadcast. I'm so excited to be with my partners in spirit, my partners in development, my partners in economic empowerment, my partners in serving this world the way God intended. So to our 904 listening audience, I greet you a hello. To those of you around the globe, BYOB worldwide, every single day I wake up with a purpose because I know that we are aligning ourselves and we're matching our energies and we are focusing our vibration on doing those things, taking those actions, having those conversations that will bless the planet. And so glad to be a part of this radio broadcast team.
Well, I'm excited to be affiliated with you guys. I'm excited about our topic today. We were talking about legacy last week, and then I looked on the Facebook and I saw where somebody out there who's affiliated with us was offering scholarships. And I said, man, that's a way to continue legacy when you can see a need, as Jesus said about, and not close up your bowels of mercy, but open up your wallets and your checkbooks and try to meet that need. And so we're just thankful for that kind of legacy being paid for some others to walk in that path. I know that's a important thing that is happening out there because we just completed another 4 years, my second round of 4-year education. It gets more expensive every time. My daughter is 11 years older than my youngest daughter, and now my youngest daughter is just finished, and then now my oldest daughter is going back to on a medical side this time. She's going to be trying to get that certification as a midwife, and so we're back in this serving again and paying again. So anytime you can get some help with that is a wonderful thing. Can one of you tell me about that scholarship I saw on Facebook?
Absolutely, Bishop. Well, it's just the heartbeat of what we do and why we do what we do. School year 2022 is going to be the inaugural our way of paying it forward for aspiring entrepreneurs. They're seniors in high school and they're freshmen going into their sophomore year in college. So we're going to be giving away 50 scholarships at the amount of $2,500. So, stay tuned for the criterion that's going to be required. But, there's definitely earmarked for entrepreneurs and being able to assist and just leave a legacy, as far as the Be On Make movement, because we always want to be in a position where we're truly empowering and educating individuals and giving them the opportunity to be able to extend their understanding, create their network, their distribution through experience and life experiences and things of that nature. So I'm excited that we are in a position to be able to do that for those special individuals. And so we'll be collecting applications beginning in April of 2022, and we'll make the final decisions prior to those individuals who will be embarking upon that fall of 2022. So we're excited about, once again, being able to do this for those who have a desire to be an entrepreneur.
I just think that, when you look at entrepreneurship, that's the area that often gets left behind. We always gearing individuals toward a certain criteria, like a certain skill set. Now, there's nothing wrong with the certain skill set if that's what you want. Like you just mentioned, your daughter is going back to school, right? She's definitely going back to school, but it's something that her heart desires. It's something she's passionate about. And then, my son's going back to school in the fall, just something he wants to do, right? But at the end, for something that his heart desires, he loves sports, and so he's going to make sure that he's operating in that. So what is happening right now is, with this shift that's actually taking place, with what we've seen with COVID, with what we've seen, and so many people are like, right now 22 states are actually ending the unemployment benefits because they're like, get back to work. Well, at some point we must realize that we need to do something for ourselves. At some point we have to realize that it's time for us to create value. And so in creating that value, for ourselves, and understanding that we want to create value for ourselves, that child sometimes need that leg up. They need that support. They need that system. And so if they want to be entrepreneurs, someone needs to encourage them, because that's ultimately what makes the world go round, is somebody willing to step out on faith and operate in that entrepreneurship and in that arena. And so we're just here to help facilitate those dreams.
That is wonderful. Dr. Byford, you want to comment on that before we read the scripture?
I certainly want to. And I think that sometimes we have to think about my comments and couch them in my experience. For the last 30 years, my ability to be able to pay my bills has been connected with the academy. It's been connected with the college environment. So I understand how valuable it is. I understand what it is. But to me, Bishop, to me, teammates, to me, listening audience, college is about the experience rather than the knowledge. College is about the experience rather than the knowledge. I'm watching CNN yesterday, and Frederica Whitfield is on there, and I went to college with her. So there's an interaction there that's lifelong. But I really want to take a little bit of time to put into perspective what we're dealing with. So I want someone to do this for me while I'm talking. Could one of my teammates take $300 times 4 and divide it by $16,000? So 1,200 divided by 16,000, and at some point just tell me what percent that is. So a family member said this to me, Bishop. I need to sign up for school. This is my junior year. Now, this particular person had a blessing where their student loan was wiped out. So because it was wiped out, they weren't able to get additional student loans, and they needed $4,000 to be able to take that particular set of classes, 4 classes. They didn't have it. They didn't have a way to get it. And then the next semester, they would have also had to have another $4,000. And then the next semester, another $4,000. And then the next semester, another $4,000. So that's 2 years, $16,000. What's that number that I was looking for? What percent is 1,200 to 16,000? Say it again.
7.5.
7%. 7%. So let's put this in perspective. For 7% of that, $16,000, you could join the Be Your Own Bank movement, and a year from now, be guaranteed the type of funds to be able to do whatever you want to do. I said this to someone last night, and I hope my colleagues receive this. Trading isn't your passion. Trading is the vehicle for you to get your passion, to do your passion, to live your passion. So we're living in a world where society says, pay the $16,000 and then let an institution say, you are worthy. Oh, well, you were second in worthiness. Let me pick this person. Oh, you are worthy. Okay, we're going to pay you this amount. I'm going to decide what you're worth. And I'm going to tell you where to be, when to do it, how to do it. Well, if instead we can be our own bank, we can write the check for the $16,000, get the passion, do what we want to do, but have power. So in a conversation about legacy, in a conversation about this movement wanting to bless people who want to be entrepreneurs, we're planting seeds into a new mindset, a new paradigm, a new belief, where someone who's from the academy, okay, can we keep it real, radio listening audience? Don't they say the #1 rule of a drug dealer is never use your own supply, never use your own stuff? So I come from the academy, but that does not mean I have to use it, because I recognize that what we're offering is a mindset that allows you to be able to take control over your life rather than be dictated to by an institution that only benefits from what is going to be of value to them.
Well, that's so true. That's so important. But before we go any further, I don't want to skip the opportunity for Ms. Dyer to read to us today the scripture. And so, Ms. Dyer, would you please read the scripture for us today?
So Proverbs 14:20-24. The poor are shunned even by their neighbors, but the rich have many friends. It is a sin to despise one's neighbor, but blesses the one who is kind to the needy. Do not those who plot evil go astray, but those who plan what is good find love and faithfulness. All hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. The wealth of the wise is their crown, but the folly of fools yields folly.
Wow, that's a lot of good stuff in that passage there, and some of them we understand to be true. When you're real popular, when you have money, when you throw the party and you bow and you everybody comes over your house, you eat all the snacks, and you can't get enough guys in there to watch the football game. But when you're broke, your friends disappear. Those you thought were your friends disappear, and you find yourself, nobody likes a broke man. And so we understand that. And so it says, when you see a need, there's a need. We see a need out there. We're talking about legacy now. When we see a need, we should try to meet that need. Is that not in one of those verses? And so, we've all been there. We all had our days when we were coming up. And when we were coming up, it seemed like we were coming up by ourselves. But when we reached the level where we can afford to throw the parties and provide the good time for everybody, then we seem to collect friends. And so, we have to make sure that while we up and while we have money, we need to make sure that we utilize that money in a way that blesses the lives of other folk. I was listening at one of these modern day boxers today. I understand he has about several $1 million worth of watches and jewelry and cars. And I was just thinking, one of those $500,000 watches, wouldn't it be better served that $500,000 was a $100 watch, and then you got $490,000 to give in scholarships, like we're trying to do, some kind of institute to train young folk how to handle money? Wouldn't that be a better way than jewelry that's marked up over 1,000%? And that's how we demonstrate that we have accumulated wealth, is by spending in that manner. Or is that a good idea, Ms. Darcy? You ready to?
Yeah, because it's absolutely, I think it's a good idea. And it's all about paying it forward. So if you read our book, Be Your Own Bank, Hidden in Plain Sight, then you read the part about some of the things that I went through as far as women, the Women Teach Forex portion. And so in that, what I want to share is, if you're not, when you can pay it forward, if you're not, you don't realize the impact that you're going to have on someone's lives, whether you do or you don't. So you guys have probably heard my story before and heard some of the things that I was going through, and my mother being terminally ill. And so, yes, I did attempt to go to college, did all of those things, but then I came home. And so I made some decisions that were not the best decisions, but I ended up with a child that is a blessing to me right now, so no regret there. But it's just that, anybody who knew me at that time, I didn't engage, and I didn't participate in that lifestyle, right? So that just wasn't me. So everybody was shocked. And so when I say pay it forward, just think about a child, someone who's young, someone who is, now in a depressed state because I had scholarships being offered to me. I had internships being offered to me. All of those things were stripped away from me. And, setting records, I hear Dr. Byford talk about being the first all the time. Well, at that time, I was the first freshman at the college I was going to actually receive an internship with the Department of Defense, and that's normally something that only seniors receive. And so here I am doing these things and finally feeling like I got a way out, and now I have a baby on the way. So I had some people's way of paying it forward, because remember, you're going to impact someone's life. And some people's way of paying it forward was offering to pay for an abortion, or offering to, pay for, or an adoption or things of that nature, but I had an aunt, knowing my mother's circumstances and where we were in life. She offered to bring me to her home, and for her mother-in-law to actually take care of my child while I finished school, and she was going to pay for me to finish school. She was giving me an opportunity that I thought I had lost, while everybody was telling me that I had ruined my life, while everybody was telling me that I wasn't going to amount to anything, that I wasn't going to make it out now. Everybody was telling me I had literally sealed my fate, to never make it, quote unquote, out. So I had someone who paid it forward because she was able to. And so even though at that point I ended up not taking her up on that offer, because it's just young and crazy, but I ended up not doing it, but it gave me hope. It gave me, I spent the summer with her, but it gave me hope. It gave me an understanding that everybody's not out for your demise. It really put me in a position, and that's really where my life began to shift. Because then I knew at that moment right there that there was something greater out there. There was something more, and people actually cared about your success.
That's very true. And so what a wonderful testimony that you had those who were considered your life and wanted to make sure that they deposit something positive to help steer you back on the path that you desire. Mr. Rogers, as we talk about this, we talk about the fact that we need to learn, as the scripture says, to have pity on the poor. Happy is he that has pity on the poor. Happy is he.
Yeah, so two things I want to make sure that our listening audience is really understanding, right? So when we're talking about pity and we're talking about the poor, we're talking about, from my perspective, being poor is really only a state of mind. It's not necessarily that financially restricted, because there are people who have resources and they're still poor because of that mindset. So I want to definitely be mindful of that. And I think one of the things that really has driven me and why we feel that this endeavor is such a necessity is because from a cultural standpoint, our whole narrative has been, in my opinion, taught to us inaccurately. We've not lived to our biblical creed in Proverbs 13:22, where a good man shall leave an inheritance to his children's children. So the generation should be paying it forward. And it pains my heart to know that no matter what city we go to, no matter how many times we share this information, when it comes to finance and when it comes to resource, it's just a different dynamic. And so we're talking about mindset, and Dr. Bythewood may mention that earlier, how this seed of hope, as Ms. Dyer just alluded to, is paramount because, being successful has always and will have to do with your work ethic. So we want to be in a position where we're not enabling individuals, but we're inspiring them. I got to say that again. We don't want to be in a position where we're enabling individuals, we're inspiring them, because systematically, sometimes we've allowed our external circumstance or the lack of resource to decrease our personal our own endeavors of getting out of that. And I know for many of us, being poor has come synonymous with poor work ethic. And even verse, I believe it's 23 or 24, when you put the work in, there's going to be a profit tied into that. So that's the reason why we want to use this as a catalyst, as an enzyme to move a person forward. Because when we look at how economically, and there was a story that I watched on Bloomberg the other day. Every sector in the world has no representation of people that share our skin tone, and the only sector that shares that when it comes to having some economic advantage is entertainment and sports. Now, when it comes to real estate, when it comes to banking, there's no representation. So once again, that is the paramount reason why this movement is such a necessity, because this is how we shift that narrative. This is why we change those thought processes. And we have to get out of the mindset that our resources and our wealth is only tied to our sports ability and our ability to entertain.
Wow. And I heard the other day also on Bloomberg that we have a new wealthiest person in the world, and his area of expertise has to do with fashion and Gucci watches and things of that nature, pocketbooks and that kind of stuff. And I was listening to them and they were talking about paying their fair share of taxes, and I was kind of shocked to hear these wealthy guys who have more money than anybody else in the world, and they said they didn't have a problem with paying their fair taxes because they had more money than they ever would spend, and that their money could be helping some of the conditions in the world, some of the stuff that President Biden wants to pay for, such as infrastructure and infrastructure people. And they were okay with that because there's only so much money that you can spend. And so you have to decide, like that young fool that Jesus talked about in John. He said, man, my investments have come in. I'll tear down my bonds and I'll build bigger bonds. And the Lord said to him, thou fool, tonight thy soul will be required of thee. And so his focus on obtaining stuff and gathering stuff and stacking it up. And the real purpose for the reason God gives us these resources is not for us to stack up somewhere because there's too much need around us. There's too many folk who need to come out of poverty, and this is the most inexpensive route that I've found in these last 61 years of stepping out of poverty, when you learn to be your own bank.
That's true, Bishop. And just to kind of chime in on what you're talking about as far as taxes and storing up. See, the difference is he had a choice. He had a choice. See, God gave him a choice. And so he made a decision to store up. You see, when the government comes in to, regardless of what, if I put in the work, then give me the choice. And this is where the education is important. This is where, education is so important, because when we look at the fact that people complain, or if you're paying a lot of taxes and you're holding assets, this is where we have to understand how tax law works, or we have to understand what assets are. And those laws are written for everybody to take advantage of. Just like this is an educational platform, an educational program. Are you aware, not you specifically, but are you aware that that's a tax write-off? That you can write off educational credit. You get credits on your taxes because you're enrolled into an educational platform. And there are different ones that you can take advantage of, whether you get a 1098T or not. So if I don't receive that, then there are still credits that I can take because I'm enrolled. So I don't want to, I don't want to make it sound bad that I'm looking for, because we are looking for them. People out there are looking for earned income credit. People are looking for deductions. There's an automatic deduction that's already in our taxes. So if my child's in school, there are credits, if I'm still claiming them on my taxes, that I'm going to take. Because so I'm not going to criticize someone who, or be critical of someone who understands investments and assets and has done the research and understands that if my money's sitting in an asset, then that's not a personal tax liability. And when you really, really get down to the nitty gritty of it, when you have someone, let's just talk about Jeff Bezos, because everybody knows Amazon. I was on there today. So there were people complain because of what he didn't pay in taxes. But when the reality is what did he do as far as job creation, entrepreneur experiences, companies that are created, what did he do? And how much more income is being generated into our economy because someone had an idea. And so that's why those benefits are there. That's why, so we can actually inspire entrepreneurship and inspire people to get out and do those things. It's all about inspiring people to keep going. And so now, because of this one company, you have trucking companies that have businesses. You have, from the airports to people all around, you have the warehouses, the online services. So many people are employed just because of that, but we would rather focus, this is where our focus comes in, on what this one person didn't do instead of everything that it did create.
Wow, now, go ahead, Dr. Bythewood.
First of all, let me reinforce how important it is what Ms. Dyer is saying, because I co-founded a company that had 243 employees, and Amazon was our largest client. So that's 243 lives that were impacted. Now, the other thing I want us to really think about is this. We have to be very careful when we stand on the sideline and we look at what other people are doing and we have an issue with it. And here's why. Because when you put people on the other team, when you put them on the other sideline, you're basically saying, this is my team and that's their team. Let me be honest. Very subtle. Our illustrious and abundant host, Bishop Robinson, who taught us the concept of anointed for wealth. He said, those wealthy guys. When in my view, because the human brain does not know the difference between imagination and reality, it's us wealthy guys. When us wealthy guys do this, when us wealthy guys take this step, this is how we want to analyze it. So we have to be careful not to take ourselves out of a group that we belong in. So I have some more to say, but let's go around a couple rotations and come back to me.
Get it out
No,
your
Dr.
chest.
D, you
Get it out
you
your
can't leave
chest.
us
Make
on
it
the clip like that, man. Finish that
don't
thought,
leave
brother.
us hanging, Dr. B. Don't
Finish,
leave us hanging.
All right.
finish that thought.
So one of the things that we have to be careful of is that we surround ourselves with energies that are going to be helping us to grow. So I'm in so many group meet chats, so many Telegram chats. And today we're talking about legacy, we're talking about poverty mindset. And one of those Telegram chats, I received this message today, not yesterday, not tomorrow, today. And this is what it says. People operating at the poverty, working class, and middle class levels of awareness are always getting ready to start their goals. The poverty class is always working on finding work. The working class is always getting ready to move from the night shift to the day shift. The middle class is always getting ready to start that graduate degree. So think about what we're doing here. We're offering an opportunity for you to make, as we all say, a committed decision. And that committed decision gets you out of this pattern that we're always on. We're always starting something. We're always looking at the future. We're always thinking about what we're gonna do when we can do this now. You can become a part of the Be Your Own Bank movement today. You can go to the website and look at BeYourOwnBankMovement.com and decide that I'm going to go beyond the next job. I'm going to go beyond the next shift. I'm going to go beyond the next degree. And I'm going to find a way to take control of my economic future. And that's how we move from the poverty mindset to what God designed us to be, and that is to be abundant and wealthy.
Say it, Dr. B. And the word we just read, the scripture we just read said, but mere talks leads only to poverty. So if all you're doing is running your mouth, I'm a shoulda, I'm about to, I'm thinking about it, and all of that, it leads to poverty. That's the word. That's the word. So it is not the president, it's the word, it's God.
Yeah, now what I was saying was taken to the left. The person that's controlling the input, they took it to the left. I think they redefined what I was saying. And what I was saying was, I've been one of those persons who made 7 figures. I ain't hoping to make 7 and 8 figures. I made the 7 and 8 figures and paid 0 tax. So I know how to do that.
Amen.
What I was saying was that these gentlemen were discussing about themselves and how they wanted, and they were going to begin to volunteer to put money back into the community because they had more money than they ever would spend. And so that's what I was saying. I wasn't saying that you should pay more tax than you have to pay.
Mm-hmm.
Of course not. But we ought to be willing to pay whatever we're supposed to pay.
Right.
Tax evasion is a crime. And so certainly we ought to pay the tax that we supposed to pay. When you have experts like Dr. Bythewood, who's doing your taxes for you, he says, Mr. Rogers, you need to pay this amount. This is what you owe the government. Mr. Rogers should stroke the check and do that. And so we're not encouraging anybody to avoid their own personal responsibilities.
Right.
I don't think so.
No, that's not the encouragement, but how many people walk up, I don't care what your income is, how many people walk up to a tax preparer, or if you do it yourself, you start out with, how many deductions can I get? How many credits can I receive? How much money am I getting back? That's the mindset. But yet when those people do it, now all of a sudden it's a crime and we criticize because their income is greater. So it's no different than, us trying to write off things for our jobs, or you trying to write off things for, regardless of whatever it is, or you on a business meeting and you writing off that lunch, or, things. And just like us, this is an educational platform. Guess what? Write it off. It's there for us to be able to do so. And so all I was saying, because that was the example, because yes, did he store things up for the storehouse? Yes, he did. he didn't want to pay anything for it, but you see, he had a choice. And so since taxes was the example, what I'm saying is let's focus on getting educated, because my question is, even for those enrolled, how many of you all actually wrote off your enrollment, the tuition that rolls around each month? How many of you all took that deduction? How many of you all took that education credit? Because you're like, me too. So, but how many actually took that deduction? Because it's there. So let's focus on educating. And I'm so like education, we're talking about education. So we're talking about education. So when you educate and you're educated on what's out there, we can make better decisions. What you focus on is where your energy flows. What you focus on is where your energy flows. So if I'm focused on what they're not doing, or taxes, or what we think that Biden said he might do, if we're focused on that, then we're not focused on what should, making sure everybody's educated. Because now, based on this conversation, I can guarantee you next year everybody's taking that deduction.
And the other part about it too, though, is understanding, how we as business owners, and we're included in that wealthy group. I think our responsibility is actually to teach people the rules and empower them, and that's most important, because and I love how Dr. Bythewood has just been on this space about the old antiquated system, right? There are two systems out there operating, and my thing is, why is this movement essential? Is because we're actually teaching people how to play by the rules of the game. That's why it's been hidden in plain sight so long. And fortunately for us, we're talking about paying it forward, that the fact that we have this information, we have this level of intel, I just imagine how different the lives of many people would be had someone understood this information, and most importantly, was free enough to give it away, that it did not separate them and put them in a position where they're controlling the outcomes. And that's the thing that keeps me most excited about what we're doing, is that we are ready and willing. This is for you, our listening audience, to guide you through this path, help you shorten your learning curve, but most importantly, you become the benefactor of creating your own personal financial narrative, because obviously when you are well-resourced, you have different sets of information, you have different people, and then you have different access. And this is what we are fighting for your family right now, for that living legacy, that now the information that we have been taught previously that have led us to where we are right now, that information just at the end of the day was misinformation. It was simply misinformation. I mean, think about it. Many of us, particularly people of color, we were not taught to leave something. Everybody has to start from scratch. You graduate, you go start your own. That is absolutely unbiblical and is absolutely insane. And when you look at it from a systematic standpoint, that's the reason why there's a tremendous gap of resources from a sustainability standpoint, not a creation standpoint, because the reality is, even as we would believe it to be in America, the Black culture is still the 9th largest financial country in the world. But the difference is sustainability and the creation of that. That's why this movement is so important.
You're so correct. I was talking with some of my colleagues in the academic arena, and we were talking about how our kids link up once they leave the college campus. How do they link up with the economic side? Well, how do they plug into the economy? Do we teach them about that, or is that something they have to figure out on their own? They have to get out there and struggle because there's nobody to link them up to the next level. You have coaches who link them up from high school to college. You have people who link them up, but you have nobody when they graduate from college to link them up to the economy, and they find themselves trying to figure out how to connect, how to become a part of that. How does that work, Dr. Bythewood?
It works in that we're creating a network of individuals who are bettering themselves, but yet also putting themselves in a position where they see the way things are set up and they operate in their own. And I've got a perfect example. There's a young lady that I taught at Florida A&M University as a grad student when I was a 29-year-old professor. So now, guess what she does for a living? She's a trader. And I've been trying to get her to see that the value that that institution is placing on her, she could do the same thing for herself. And she's yet to join the BYOB movement, but she will. But here's my point. She's the oldest person in the trading room, and she's in her 40s. And all of the young people that work with her, they're constantly talking about the fact that this is just a stepping stone for them. They don't believe that they should be employed. They don't believe that they should work for an institution. They don't even believe in banks. They're doing their own cryptocurrency exchange, cryptocurrency transactions to avoid the banks. So what's happening is that there is a systematic movement on this planet toward decentralizing your life. Rather than having to depend on the network of the government and the institutions, we're now taking control. So I'm excited because the young people are doing what we're doing. Watch this. We got all these old people on this call, and we're right here. You got all these young people that my old student is working with, and they're right here. So they're doing it this way. We're teaching y'all how to do it this way, and we're coming together, and we're creating the middle of the society, middle class, and we're creating this knowledge, and we're meeting in the middle. Can I be honest with my colleagues for a second? When we do our presentation on BYOB and why this is an important opportunity, I love it. But there's one sentence we say that I cringe every time we say it. We say, a certain percent of the people control certain percent of the resources, and it will always be that way. Ooh, we're literally changing it so it doesn't have to be that way anymore.
We don't
Yes, we do. We say it's always been that way, and it will always be. I will bring out the recording. It's just part of our presentation. And we're talking about the fact that a small amount of people control all the resources. It's always been that way and always be that way. It's a line from a slide that we didn't create. But I'm just saying we got to slide into a new creation of understanding that just like the subtleties of the fact that we just miss some of the stuff that we say because we got these beliefs and paradigms, we have to recognize that we're changing it. We're changing it to the fact where now a larger amount of people are going to own a larger amount of the resources. So it will change. It won't always be that way.
So let me bring some clarity to that statement. We'll bring some clarity. So what it is 95% of individuals are fighting for 5% of the wealth, and 5% of individuals control 95% of the wealth. That is where we all sit right now. However, you have to make a decision, because unless you do something different, it will be that way. Unless you make a decision to put you and your family on the other side of money, unless you make a decision to shift. So it's about identifying where you fall into the cash flow quadrant and understanding that you must transition. And because if we keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, such as we need to raise minimum wage, it needs to be $15 an hour. Well, that's 25 cents a minute. Where's the value in that? Are you not worth more than 25 cents a minute? When I started working, minimum wage was $3.85. So yes, I dated myself a little bit. But if it was $3.85 then, and we've been continuously raising minimum wage over the years, at what point does it shift? At what point do we realize that is why there's an income gap? So that's honestly when I share that, that's what I'm speaking to. So at what point do we realize that there is an income gap and there is a shift and there's something that has to happen? Because when you know better, you do better. And the definition of insanity is to continue to do the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So that's literally what I'm sharing. So if it didn't, raising it from $3.85 didn't make us wealthy and allow us to create the life we want, what is $15 going to do? Absolutely nothing. So we have to, and that's why we have that gap and that shift. And in order for us to close that gap and be a part of the individuals that control the narrative, you have to make a decision that you want off that rat race and off that wheel.
Yeah. Wow. Now can I talk, Miss? My Mr. Rogers, I'm an old country boy. You spent some time in the country. You know, my mother used to say, if you throw a rock in a pack of dogs, the one that's hit gonna do what?
Well,
Well, I don't like the same way I like the Mexico, I like the dogs.
But Dr. Bywood,
Yes.
now when we talk about the system, you know, we spent the whole summer last year talking about the systematic stuff in law enforcement and how the systematic system in law enforcement was against us. You know, on the economic side, you know, the system is set up and is set up to somebody's advantage. And more than likely, it's set up to the person's advantage who set the systems up. And so sometimes we have to step outside the system and create our own system. That's what the nationalists would say, that we have to create our own economic system. You know, we bring our own cash to the table, we bring our own products to the table, and we bring our own consumers to the table. How possible is that in this day and time with the mindsets of the young people who are down there and we up here?
It's very possible, Bishop. And what it takes is a shift in perspective. And I'll give you a perfect example, snapped from the headlines of my life. So I live in Tampa, Florida, basketball tournament in Orlando, Florida this past weekend. Several girls just don't have parents that will take them to Orlando. So what do? They spend the night at my house, we jump in the truck, and we go to Orlando. So after we finished playing 3 games, we went to an eatery. And there were 2 girls with me at this particular trip. And when we ordered their food, they pulled out their money to pay. Now, sometimes I pay for them. This particular time I didn't. So the one girl didn't move. She didn't pull out anything. So I said, do you have money? She said, no, sir. So I paid for her. And she said this to me. She said, I thank you, but you're not my responsibility. Now watch this. My daughters didn't even move. They didn't even think about it. They didn't even pull anything out of anywhere because they knew that the system is set up for me to take care of them. So those other girls are not wrong because they recognize that the system I've created will take care of my girls. So when we recognize that the system is set up to take care of the people who are in the system, rather than have an issue with it, rather than have a problem with it, we just saw the 2 examples. Either you become the person that will create your own system and get your own burgers, or you will go to the system, tax deduction, and get what the system owes you, or get what you can get from the system. So the issue is that we have a problem with the fact that we're not part of the system. But think about it. Ms. Dyer broke it down with Amazon. So they're not going to think that I have a problem because I'm not one of Dr. B's daughters. They're going to be thankful because Dr. B took me all the way to Orlando twice, Saturday and Sunday. And you know what? He does it every time. So I'm not going to have an issue because he won't buy my burger. I'm going to be thankful because he took me to Orlando so I can buy the burger. So when we flip it, when we flip our perspective and we're thankful, then we put ourselves in a situation where we have the ability to be able to take advantage of the system. The system's not against me. It's just for the people who are in the system. And that's how it's supposed to be. Watch this. When I make up my own system, I'm going to do the same thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mr. Rogers?
He dropped the mic.
Mr. Rogers, you look like you want to jump out of your chair. Are you running or
just
what?
trying to figure out what Dr. Byfoot must have won the tournament this weekend. He had like he been illuminated. Some illumination is taking place. But I'm in total agreement, Bishop, because we are the system. We just don't realize it. I mean, it's kind of like the movie The Matrix. You had the red pill and the blue pill. And the reality is, when we're talking about education, the reality is when it comes to financial resources, it's really about what you're being educated upon. And that misnomer from an institution standpoint has crippled so many people, because the word of God says, if a man don't work, he don't eat, and he don't deserve to eat, right? And if you're not working and putting your own skin in the game, then guess what? It's easy for you not to appreciate value. But when you put your own skin in the game, and you're tilling that field for yourself, then I can assure you that you still will be benevolent, but you're not going to be in a position where you want to enable someone, but you want to equip them so that they can be the resource themselves. And at the end of the day, that is the core heartbeat of the Beyond Make movement. I don't want to ask permission to enjoy my greatness, because that was given to me as a birthright. And so when we flip the script and wake up our minds and understand that, I don't have to ask permission from the system. I become the system. Give me the tools that I can excavate my own land. And then guess what? However I decide to disseminate my resources, now I have that option.
Amen.
Now here's the thing about that. Here's what I want to talk. I'm gonna get to you, Miss Dara. I know you're excited.
No, I just say amen. I just say amen.
However I decide
to disseminate my resources is how I decide. Amen. God gave him a choice.
Well, let me give you an example. Let me give you an example of what I'm getting ready to say right here. Teacher Wayne Cone, who was president at Waters College when I became dean of students over there. And we used to ride on the weekends to the AME Church's conferences. Friday night was a school's night. They raised money for the AME schools on Friday night. And we were talking, and he said, Rollison, on the north side of Jacksonville, it's back in 84, 85. He said, on the north side of Jacksonville, they did a research, and it said that Black people spent, just on the north side of Jacksonville, northwest quarter, spent $75 million on grape soda.
I believe it.
On northwest Jacksonville. Now, that was a choice, Miss Dara. That's how we chose to spend our money. That was and these are people who are saying that the system won't give me anything. The system won't do this. They're dependent on the system. Every time you turn around, they're complaining about the system. And we're spending that kind of money on grape soda. Yet we ask the man to come over and fix our parks up. We ask him to come over and do this and do that for us. At what point, we think about even more money was spent on other things. I can't remember that far back, but that one always stuck with me, that $75 million for a small community in Jacksonville spent on grape soda. And so, we spend our money like we want to. We have our own economy. If we would just focus our money on our community, have a plan, a system. And this is why I think the educational experience is important. A system where we gain knowledge about economics. We think about Tulsa and the system that was in Tulsa that got burned to the ground. We think about Rosewood and that got burned to the ground. They had economic systems that worked for us. And we have to be exposed to different information so that when we put together a system, we can put together a system that actually works and not a faulty system. Because the worst thing we can do is lead people into a system, because we're kind of scary. We have a bad experience. We think all experiences are bad. And so it's hard to do experiments with us, because when we're damaged, we're damaged. And so we have to have our children need to have some kind of experience with some mentors to understand economics and understand the system. So when we talk about putting systems together for our community, we'll be on target.
Bishop, let me just say this. Let me just say this real quick, because I think sometimes, and Dr. Bytha would help me out, because I know you're a wordsmith and a word savant. I think we have to now redefine the word education, because if we're true to it, and correct me if I'm wrong, we don't have a system of education, right? We don't have a system of education. We have a system of indoctrination, right? And because education is about empowerment, indoctrination is about control, right? So I think we need to really, really, really challenge ourselves and redefine the word education in the pretense in which has been offered to us. And that's how we end up with these false systems that you alluded to, is because it was never about empowerment. It was all about control. So this is why this conversation is so important, because think about it. I was indoctrinated to become a professional athlete. I was indoctrinated to become a entertainer in order to have financial viability, right? And you go to any park right now, and the essence of team sports has gotten away from what it was intended to. It's about work ethic. It was about character. But everything right now is all about raising little Johnny or little Sally so that they can become a professional athlete, that they can take care of the parents. And that is crazy. And we have to stand up and shout it out and demise and destroy this indoctrinational process that we've been beholden to.
So let me add something to it as well, because I'm in complete agreement with that. And I just want to go back to what Bishop said as well, because I hear it so often, and not just from Bishop, but I hear it all the time, is the system and the people. And you know, and you think about it, because even on this call, we talked about, you know, well, they're putting liquor stores in our neighborhoods, or they're doing this. The reality is supply and demand has no color. Supply and demand has no color. If we demand it, then the supply will come. And that's what we have to remember. Supply and demand is all about what we're demanding. So just like in this example, it was grape sodas, or in this example, it was something of that nature, we have to begin to demand. You know, you have to begin to demand, and it's internal. It starts with us. And so I want to challenge everybody to eliminate the them people today. I want to challenge everybody to eliminate that community. I want to challenge everybody to stop putting blame on someone else for what we have the power to do for yourself. Because the reality is, if you really look, and I've been saying this for years, and then it just happened. If you look at what happened, since we want to talk communities, let's look what happened within the African-American community just this past election. When we stop blaming and fighting and doing all this other things, and I don't care what end of the spectrum you sit on, this is not about who you voted for. You know, this is not about that. But the reality is people got up, band together for a common cause, and made a decision, and something shifted and something happened. And so what happened is that people quit saying, well, that person won and this person, and people got up and did something. So just imagine, when we talk about economies and we talk about economics and we talk about being educated on the right things, imagine what will happen if we stop saying them people, those wealthy people, that community, we never had, we didn't, and actually say, you know what, we need to do it now. Let's get up, let's band together, let's make sure that families are educated and impacted financially and economically around the world. So just imagine what can happen when we come together on a common cause. Just imagine what's going to shift, the wealth shift that's going to happen. That slide is going to change, Dr. B, as well, because we came together, we pulled together, and now we're all on the same sheet of music, and ensuring that people are financially educated, impacted, and understanding that the value that you create is an inside out job. And we can definitely all, no matter who you are, what your background is, no matter where you come from, you can have it, and you can pay it forward. That's what has to happen. And that's why we're here today. That's why we're on this platform, and that's why we do these calls.
May I say this very quickly? I want to explain why I came on this call with so much light. So I'd like to invite everybody, after you attend Market Talks tonight, please come to a talk with the finance doctor. It's part 5 of relationships. And I'm going to explain through relationships exactly why Mr. Rogers picked up on that something was going on with Dr. B today. It is. And I want to explain it. So I will do so at 10 p.m. Eastern. I'm sorry.
Wow.
You guys have a share?
It's
Wow,
58.
This has really been great. And this is a conversation we're going to have to continue because we're not finished. I got a plethora of stuff I need to say because I need to put Miss Diary in check there. But I'm going to really think about that. And
you think y'all was gonna slide by and roll past? I was just like I wasn't gonna hear it. All right.
Yeah, she controls the button, so she's in control. I have to submit to her. But I'm thankful for each one of you and everything you had to say. And I think everything that everyone said has a lot of value, and if we listen real closely, we can hear those things that God's trying to say to us about our economic situation. We're going to ask Ms. Dyer if you would just close us out in a manner that's appropriate. Thank you.
Yes, yes, yes. So everybody pick up your phone, listener audience, pick up your phone and pick up your phone. And I want you to send a text message. The text message, you're sending it to phone number 904-567-0634. So if you are ready to accept the challenge to be your own bank, get more information, 904-567-0634 and text the word wealth. The message that you're sending says wealth, and you want to make sure you respond to the message you get in return. Other than that, join us on our website. So beyourownbankmovement.com. You'll get some more information as well. Pick up a copy of our book, Be Your Own Bank, Hidden in Plain Sight. So let me tell you as we close out what we're doing this month. So today through the rest of June, every order that's ordered on our website, you're going to receive a personalized copy. So you don't have to drop it in there unless you want something specific for someone else. But every order that's received between now through the end of June, you get a personalized copy, because as you can see from the call today, we are so serious and we are so passionate about removing the financial blinders. And that's why we wrote this book. And so this is written with you in mind, for you, personalized copy. Just make your order on our website, beyourownbankmovement.com. So ladies and gentlemen, this has been our broadcast. Send a text message, visit the site, make sure you order a copy of your book, and we will definitely see you tonight. We will see you tonight. BYOB Market Talks, followed by a talk with the finance doctor. Make sure you reach out so you can receive the information. We love each and every last one of you guys, and this is going to officially conclude this week's broadcast. I hope you had as much fun as we did.